Train by day, Kyle Wigginton podcast by night, all day.
Gus
Yep.
Dominguez.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I always screw the names up a little bit. Hey, you guys got to be quiet over there, okay? You can put the headphones on if you want to. Yeah. Shut up and listen. So I skimmed through your story, Gus. The article that they wrote, that what was that guy's name?
Michael Lewis?
Yeah, the article that he wrote is extremely long, and I have the attention span of a gnat. So I had to look at other outlets.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting story. I don't want to do it a disservice by going through it, but if you want to go through it, we'll start there, or I can just ask you some questions about it.
Well, I'll leave it up to you.
Okay.
You can go ahead and you can.
Well, I'll say
ask anything you want.
Yeah, I'll say stop me if I'm not saying it right. But basically, you went to jail, prison. You went to prison for supposedly smuggling in Cuban baseball players.
Correct.
And then you were acting as their agent as well.
Right after they got here to the U.S., we acted as their agents.
Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of the whole story, correct?
Correct.
Okay, now if you want to walk me back through that.
Well, what happened was that I became an agent way before that, back in 1991.
Because you were a baseball player as well, right?
I played college ball. I didn't play pro.
But you still played baseball.
Yeah, I played. So back in 1991, the first Cuban player defected. Pitcher by the name of Rene Arocha. I happened to be in Miami when he defected. They were there passing through from having a tournament against the U.S. national team in Middleton, Tennessee. So we just happened to meet. I knew we were there with some friends of mine who own a company, an import company, and they were doing a candy bar by the name of Jose Canseco 40-40 bar. Mm-hmm. And at that time, Jose Canseco had been the only player ever to do 40-40, which is 40 home runs, 40 stolen bases in the same season. He was the only player ever to do that. And of course, because Canseco was Cuban, we had a thing for Canseco. So we met with a guy at the radio station where he was going to do his press conference. And we talked to him and the sports guy there, the host of the sports show, and we settled on that he was going to fly back later on. We were going to fly him back to LA. I needed to talk to him. I needed to talk to Canseco's agents because we knew them, and so I said, I'm going to put you guys together.
How did you know them?
From the Canseco candy bar thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was doing, at that time, I wasn't involved in baseball. I was involved in advertising. So I was actually doing the advertising for that company. Okay. And I had been with that company in Miami when the whole thing happened. So I was just trying to do him a favor and put him together with Canseco's people. Mm-hmm. So we set it all up, and we brought him over to LA, and Canseco's people just blew him off on the day that he was supposed to meet with him. Mm-hmm. So, and he was sitting in my office. Excuse me. And I called Canseco's people and I said, look, we're going to be on our way pretty soon. So they told me that they had other things that they needed to do, basically using the words, more important things that we need to do than to do this. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay. So I guess my face went from a happy face to a kind of downer face. And Rene kind of looked at me and saw something happen, and he said, "Well, what did they tell you?" He said, "No, we'll meet again. We'll go through it again. They can't do that because I made something up." Yeah. He said, "Nah, that wouldn't be why you changed your face that way you did." And he said, "Just tell me the truth." I said, "It's okay." And so I told him the truth. And he said, "No, well then I'll tell you what. Well, you be my agent," because I was kind of the only one that helped him. And I kept telling him that I thought he could play here in the big leagues. Mm-hmm. He didn't think he could play here. So we talked about it. I said, look, I play baseball. I know baseball in and out. Problem is, I don't know how to be an agent. I've never done it. I don't know anything how to be an agent. He says, don't worry about it. I don't know how to be a major leaguer either. So we'll kind of learn together. And that's how the whole thing started.
So then how did you go from that to actually getting them playing time on the field?
Well, then you start doing all kinds of things. You start doing the tryouts and
so you basically had to set it up for them.
You set it up. We actually had to talk to the commissioner's office because there had never been another Cuban to defect. Mm-hmm. So there was really nothing in the rules of baseball to deal with Cuban baseball players who defected. So we kind of set everything up. And going further forward, then all the other players, when Rene gets to the major leagues, Rene played in the minor leagues only 1 year. He won the most valuable player in AAA that year. So they invited him to major league spring training. The Cardinals did the next spring training, the next following year, and he made the team. And then he goes on and he wins his first. I think he won the first 5 starts that he had with the Cardinals as a rookie. And then everybody starts noticing this. Hey, these guys can play. This is not just they can play at the amateur level. This guy's in big leagues.
Yeah.
And this wasn't even their number 1 starter. Rene was the number 3 starter. And so more guys started defecting. And all they did was call Rene to tell me to help them. Mm-hmm. And what they usually did was they waited until they were in another country with the Cuban national team, and then they would call us. That's the way they set it up. And then from that country, then we would go on and help them out.
Because they couldn't leave Cuba to come over here?
No, they weren't allowed to come over here. They weren't allowed to play professionally anywhere. They could only play in Cuba with the Cuban team. And as part of the Cuban team, if they traveled somewhere else. So obviously, you can't get them in here because it was smuggling to get somebody from Cuba in here. Even though at that time there was a wet foot, dry foot law in the United States that Bill Clinton has set up with Castro. When I say Castro, I mean Fidel Castro. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that meant that any Cuban who touched American soil, just touched it, was on it when the U.S. Coast Guards or anybody from the U.S. saw them or picked them up, they would be able to remain in the U.S. Legally. If they caught them in the waters without touching soil, and then be sent back to Cuba.
Ship them back. How bad would that be for the people that got shipped back too? Would they be in trouble?
Yeah, we found out some things happened to some of the guys. The first guy was Arocha, and we feared for his family because nobody knew what was going to happen. Nobody knew there were going to be any repercussions to the family or anything. Thank goodness, nothing ever happened to anyone there. But let me see. The 4th guy to defect was another pitcher by the name of Ariel Prieto. Mm-hmm. Through the years, we find out that his family did go through some problems, and they put his father in prison.
Just for him coming over here.
Just for him coming over. Yeah, and they beat him up.
Yeah.
He had a tough time. And then after that, it kind of things you never heard anybody getting any problems, except for there was another kid in, I think, 98 by the name of Andy Morales, who was actually smuggling to the United States. But he was caught in the waters the first time he tried. Mm-hmm. And he was sent back to Cuba. Well, he couldn't play baseball. He couldn't even go to a baseball diamond. Couldn't show up anywhere where there was baseball.
In Cuba.
He couldn't leave his house without somebody checking on him. His family was all the same way. They had to depend on neighbors to go to get whatever they needed, stuff like that. And one day, my wife and I were sleeping in LA. I think it was like 1:00 in the morning. We got a call from his father-in-law saying, "Hey, Andy made it." I'm going, "Andy made what?" And he says, "He's here." I said, "So do you want me to go over there?" He says, yeah, that's why I'm calling you. Get over here. So he had made it a second try. He had made it to Miami. And then that's the one that we thought was really going to hurt because he had been caught once, sent back, and then he tried it again. And it was somewhat a slap in the face for the government. Right. Because he escaped a second time. And so we thought something was going to go on there. So we talked to at that time, there was no U.S. embassy in Cuba. There was an office that was called a U.S. I can't remember. It was in Washington, D.C., and they dealt with any problems with Cuba. Mm-hmm. So we talked to them about, hey, can you put the word out that we need to kind of tell the world that this is happening, and if something happens to his wife, you guys are going to say something about it. The U.S. government's going to do something about it, and they did. They put out to the newspapers. They gave the story to the newspapers. The newspapers carried it, especially the newspapers in Miami, right, were all pro-Cuban in the United States. So thank goodness nothing happened to her, and then he got her out later. She came later, but. And as we go forward, getting back to your original question, how did I get to the point where I was sent to prison? The smugglers started coming in. They saw a lot of money because then there was a player by the name of Ariel Prieto. He signed for $1 million. And after that, it just exploded. It went to 4, 5, 6, 10 million. So I guess they started looking and saying, hey, listen, there's a lot of money to be made here. Right. So I got a few calls, and I always say, I'm not paying to get anybody here. First of all, you're breaking the law. It's smuggling. Yeah. Second of all, I get calls from players all the time. Why would I need you to do anything? I just wait for them to be, let's say, in Venezuela or in Mexico, and they'll call me, and we'll go from there. So there was actually the guy that smuggled Andy Morales in smuggled five players later on, and I represented 3 of the players. Because once he was in the States, he was at Andy Morales' house. Because also he had brought in Andy Morales' son, who just last year got drafted in the second round.
Well, once they're here, they're legal, right?
They're legal. Yeah. And so once they're here, that's what I wanted always to understand, that they were here and that they were legal, and we could go ahead. He gets caught, not for anything of smuggling. He gets caught for drug trafficking. And this guy was we learned later in the trial, this guy was a bad guy. This guy had been dealing with the cartels in Mexico and had a bad history.
So so this is the guy that called you?
This is the guy who called me. No. Okay, well, no, he never called me.
Other guys that called me. Huh? How is this guy in relation to you?
He's the guy that smuggled.
Okay, he smuggled somebody, but he's also smuggling drugs.
Yeah, separate from anything that has to do with baseball, he's doing all the other stuff, and nobody knew about. Yeah, no, it only came out in the trial, and he was in prison, and they see that there's money going into his account and to some of his friends' accounts from me. And the reason was that he had called, and we had a player that has signed with the Seattle Mariners for $6.7 million. Yuneski Betancourt, shortstop, and he was in Mexico, and we had trouble getting his paperwork in Mexico, his legal paperwork, because he had to have residency in the third country to be able to be what is called a free agent, as baseball is concerned. Because if they came to this country, then you have to go through the draft. And the draft, you can only deal with one team, the team that picks you. As a free agent, you can deal with all 30 teams. So obviously your price is going to go up.
It's a bigger paycheck. Yeah,
bigger paycheck because you have competition. So Betancourt is in Mexico. We're having trouble with that, and I guess they're getting pissed off because it's taking too much time. So what happens is that he calls me one day, and he says, "Look, this is taking way too long. These people are getting pissed, and I don't even know who he's talking about when he said these people because I had only met him, and I don't know if it's one guy, 2 guys, 3, 5, 10 guys. I have no idea." And he says, "Well, these guys are talking about going over to Mexico, where he's at. He was in Culiacan, and Culiacan is a hotbed of the drug world in Mexico." But there's also a team there that I knew the owners. And so he goes, we're going to go, these guys are, if this doesn't happen quickly, they're going to go over there and break his legs. So I go, I said, fine, I hung up. So I started thinking about it. I call him back and I go, it really doesn't make any sense for you guys to do anything even remotely close to that, because if his legs are broken,
you're not getting paid.
Nobody's getting paid. The players are getting paid. You're not getting paid. I'm not getting paid. And there's no future for the player because he's done. Yeah. And that's a $6 million contract. He says, "Oh, okay. Well, okay, whatever." Calls me a couple of days later and he says, "Hey," then he threatens me. He says, "You pay.
Are we going to break your legs?"
Well, they didn't say it quite that way. What got me was, don't your children go to Tulane University?
Yeah.
And in my head, I go, how in the world do they know that my kids are over there? So I hung up again and I said, let me think about this. I don't want to talk to my partner because then he's going to give me an opinion not based on my kids. He's going to give me his opinion based on him being an attorney.
Yeah.
And probably going to the police and for going that way. So I'm thinking I can go to the police, I can go to the FBI. But my kids are in New Orleans and I know they can't protect them 24 hours a day. Mm-hmm. They can't. Second of all, I don't want to put that on their back, that they have to be looking all over the place for, they can't live their lives.
Right.
I didn't want to tell my wife because the same thing. I didn't want to put any, I had the pressure.
Yeah.
So I had to kind of swallow and eat the pressure and say, okay, I could probably, for the money he's asking for, I could probably hire somebody and have him killed. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do that because first of all, I don't know. I don't even know if there's just one guy or there's 5 guys.
Right.
So
keep popping up.
Yeah. What do I do? So the 3 options, I go, they're not good. So I'll get the money and pay and get it over with. He wants the money in a paper bag. Okay, he wants cash.
Yeah.
I go, no, I'm not going to give him the money in cash because if I give him the money in cash, he can always blackmail me for more money and more money and more money. If I give it to him through a bank wire, if he wants more, then I can go to the FBI and say, look, this is what's happening. Here it is. And I need you guys to protect. Then I got to make the choice of bringing the kids home.
That makes sense.
And doing all that stuff. So I pay him. So nothing happens. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. For 4 years later, the FBI starts getting on the case because he's now in prison, like I said, for drugs. And they see all these wires coming into him. And they ask him, who's Gus Dominguez? He tells them that I paid him to smuggle these 5 players in. The 5 players combined were worth $500,000.
Yeah.
So this kind of came up in the trial. My attorney didn't really do much of a job, to be honest with you.
So that was the whole trail that led them to all the stuff.
To this stuff. And then they charged me with 3 things. They charged me with smuggling, harboring, and transporting illegal aliens. Well, we appealed all 3. We won 2 of the 3. And when you appeal, there's 3 judges on the case. I think it was the area, southeast area, which includes Miami and all that area. I cannot remember what the district 3 or something. Anyway, 2 of the 3 judges, all 3 judges dismissed the harboring and transporting of illegal aliens, because once they're in the United States, they're not illegal anymore.
Right.
So there's they can't do anything about harboring. Harboring means that you put them in an apartment and you keep them in there and you don't let them out. Nobody knows they're there. And these guys went out to practice every day. These guys went out to parties.
Yeah, that was one of the things I read was it said that because they weren't avoiding like immigration or something,
Right.
they were actually living life. Yeah, they threw that one out.
Yeah. And I took them to immigration in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And then the transporting, the same thing. You're not transporting illegal aliens because they're already in the country. So
yeah, you didn't bring them over the border.
the smuggling, and by the way, you have to get all 3 judges to dismiss. 2 of the 3 dismissed
Mm-hmm.
the smuggling part. They couldn't find why they would call that smuggling.
Right, because
Define it as smuggling because
smuggling's the same thing, right? Like putting them in a bin and carrying them across the border or something, right?
Well, here's the way they said it. Look, if I bring you, if that right there is the beach, that's the United States, and this is the water, and I drop you here in the water, I'm not doing anything illegal. Now, how you make it from here to that, it's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but if you make it, great. If you don't make it, but I mean, they drop them off close enough where they make it.
Yeah.
They basically walk. Anyway, and this guy did a 66-page, one of the judges did a 66-page, it's called dissent, and saying about the law doesn't follow the case, that I should have been convicted of smuggling at all. Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do? I mean, you leave it like that and you keep going.
Yeah, I think it all boils down to somebody needed to get slapped on the wrist for it, and you were there.
I think so. I think they sort of made an example of me because they knew this stuff was going on with the smugglers, but they usually took them to the Dominican Republic. And the Dominican Republic, you do whatever you want. Really, the Dominican Republic is the wild, wild west. Yeah. If there's money, you can do anything you want.
And then basically they come here from there.
And then they get a residency there. Yeah. And then they can they can sign as a free agent and then come play here. Once every Cuban is here playing with a team, they no longer go back to the country they were originally came from, like the Dominican. They stay here. Yeah. They start filing papers to stay here. And so that's how this whole thing worked out. And so anyway, the money I borrowed from one of the players. I didn't steal the money from one of the players.
This is the money you paid for the to the drug guy?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I paid I did a refinance of our house, and I repaid the player that let me borrow the money.
It was that much money?
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Damn.
Sure.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Yeah, so they were basically extorting you for money, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. 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 And then, I had a conversation with an FBI agent who was part of the family at one time. And I told him, he knew about it. Mm-hmm. And I told him, and I said the same thing. I said, look, one of the things I wanted to ask you, because maybe I was wrong, is that I fear that the FBI could not protect the kids, right, or my wife, or even me. But I wasn't worried about me. I was worried more about the kids because, here I am putting all this extra weight when they're having a good time here at Tulane. They're studying, they're doing their things. And the guy said, no, I actually would have done the same thing. Yeah. He says, we can't protect anybody 24/7. We can't do it. We don't have the personnel to do it. First of all. Second of all, your case is not even that big a deal. Third, you don't even know who's involved in the case. So who do we protect them from? Right. We can get one guy because you know him, but so what? So you did the right thing.
Did you ever find out who it was that you were sending money to? Okay, no. I didn't know if they ever actually looked into that aspect of it.
No, I know who I sent the money to, but I don't know if they were involved. I don't think they were involved. And the FBI, I kind of let it go. I got the sentence was 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually did 34 months, so a little less than 3 years. So I think that part of you just want to kind of forget it,
Right.
and let it go. But it happened, and
Yeah, it could have been a lot longer too. I saw it was like 200 counts or something they were trying to get you on.
Yeah, because it was five. It was 5 guys. It was 3 counts for each guy.
Yeah.
So it was like, let me see, multiply that five times.
I was like, was it
Yeah,
15?
Yes, at least.
Yeah, I was thinking it was way more than that, 20 or something like that.
Yeah, at least. So, yeah, and
How was your time in prison, if you don't mind me asking?
Club Fed.
Club Fed, is that what you said? I had an uncle
Isn't that what they call it?
Well, I had an uncle that was also in Lompoc.
Oh, I was in Lompoc.
Yeah.
I was in Taft the first 17 months.
Mm-hmm.
And Taft actually was a better place to be.
Then Lompoc?
Without, not even, and Lompoc is not bad.
Yeah.
But Taft is Taft, man. Taft is, the only thing you don't have at Taft is your freedom.
What is Taft? What does
Taft used to be a women's prison.
Okay.
So the beds are better. They're all cubicles instead of just wide open.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a Lompoc. I don't know if you've ever been to Lompoc, but it's wide open. It's like a garage. It's just full of beds.
Well, I went to Lompoc one time. We didn't go see that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I assume there were cells there. There weren't cells there? It's just
No, there's no cells.
Okay.
There's no, only in the higher like mid and high.
Like if you pay money to be there, you get a bed in a cell?
No. This is what they call white collar crimes.
Yeah.
No violence. You can't have any violence in your record if you want to be there. If for you to be there, you
I
can't.
don't know how my uncle got in then.
You have violence?
I mean, he was a very violent human. I'm not sure if they got him on violent. They got him on tax evasion. So that's probably how he got in.
Tax evasion is I knew about 4 guys, and when I went in, I was 48 years old. So most of those guys were already like in their 60s, like I am now. And there's a lot of guys in tax evasion.
Yeah,
a lot of guys, but they owe like hundreds of thousands, not just a 5,000 here or 3,000 there. They won't go after you for that. They'll go after you when you get up to the 100,000.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he owed some money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, the Taft, we had tennis, we had basketball, we had softball season.
So how'd you get from there to Lompoc?
Well, I entered they transferred me because there was a program for alcohol and drug use. I've never used a drug in my life. I don't even know what cocaine looks like. To be honest with you, never seen it.
I know what it smells like.
Yeah, well, I don't. I don't know either one. But anyway, so my lawyer actually, the one good thing he did was tell me, hey, there's this program. When they sentence you, you have to ask for it. Because if you wait to be in the prison system, then they won't give it to you. You have to do it, right when you get sentenced. So he asked for it for me. He said, well, he's been drinking since the whole indictment went in, and we think he needs it. And so the judge gave it to me.
Until they knocked some time off?
That knocks a whole year off.
And that's at Lompoc?
A Lompoc.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And also, they're both working places. So Taft, I used to be a teacher for Spanish-speaking guys that wanted to get their high school equivalent tests done. So we used to prepare them for that. I actually have 4 guys graduate.
Oh, that's cool.
One guy was a tough guy. I think he was part of something bigger. I don't know how he was there. But anyway, that was cool that we did that. And then Lompoc, I was in the crew landscaping crew, which I had never cut grass in my life. And I did it every day. So, and they used to do it by partners. And we used to go, Lompoc has a whole area where the what do you call the cops that work at the place. Oh man. Anyway, the officers that work there.
COs.
The COs.
There you go.
Yes, sir. You've
Thanks,
been there
Des.
before.
Well, no, it's Des told me, yeah.
Okay, the COs actually can buy houses there and they can live there. I don't know that they buy them. I think they rent them. Anyway, so there's about 7 blocks of about 15 houses each block, and each street is a cul-de-sac, and then each street is separated. So they would send 2 guys for each street, and my partner.
Oh, you guys did the maintenance for those?
Yeah, we did the lawn.
Okay,
we did the lawn and the backyards.
Yeah,
basically, and that's all week long. You do that, and then you break for lunch, and you come back and you finish whatever you didn't finish.
Yeah,
the guy that I partner with. Actually, I was very lucky. He was a Afro-American guy who was the funniest dude in the world. Mm-hmm. But he wanted to. He hard worker.
Yeah,
I mean hard worker that he couldn't see a little thing on the grass without picking it up and saying, "No, this is my street. This is So I went along with him, and I said it's better to work than just sit around and just I mean, the days go like that when you're working. And like I said, thank goodness I got him as a partner. So we used to have a lot of fun. We'd be done by Tuesday with every house, front and back. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we go out in the backyard. So there were a couple houses that were empty. We used to work out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, push-ups and do things like that.
They didn't have a gym at the...
Yeah, they did.
Okay, yeah.
They had a gym.
I remember when I saw my uncle, because we actually went there one time to visit him. He was freaking jacked.
Oh, a lot of guys are jacked.
Yeah, I think he just worked out all day long.
Yeah, it's actually an open gym. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's very, very good. The facility at Lone Park is really good. It's just that the sleeping quarters and the bathrooms are old school, where everything is wide open and you can see everybody that's there. Yeah,
it's so weird to me. Did you have like cordoned off sections for your race and stuff?
For what?
For like if you're white, black in certain areas. So I've seen certain prisons where they have that. Like if you don't go to certain areas.
Oh no. Neither one. However, I will tell you that when I was at Taft, I'll tell you 2 stories. The second day I was there was a library, right? Which is a building where I used to teach the guys. Also, they had classrooms, but the library was there, and you could go to the library until whatever time, and you can study whatever you wanted to study. And there was also a playroom where people could do actually stuff like this, and they could record songs with guitars or whatever. It's also a pool room. So I just got there. So you have to go through the politics of getting known before you can join a softball team or, this or that. And I came as a baseball agent. So people would talk to me about, hey, you want to play in the team, Anyway, I'm sitting like I'm sitting right now. The library and the pool places are right behind me. And I'm watching a softball game. And all of a sudden I hear this commotion back of me and people yelling and people screaming, and all the COs come running and they got their sticks out. And this guy comes out of there bleeding from his head, just gushing blood. They had a fight over a ball that went, something about, one of the shots. A guy took the pool stick and cracked the guy his head open. Well, they took both guys, and they went to medium. They could never come back to
rec.
They can't come back to the minimum. Yeah, they can't. Now you have violence. Right. So that was my second day. That was my introduction to prison. The third day, I'll tell you another story. The third day, my introduction to the COs.
Is it the third day?
Yeah, the third day. So I'm walking. I don't know any better. I don't have any friends yet there. I only have one friend who wants me to be his friend because he's very religious. So he wants me to go to class with him at night. Anyway, so I'm wearing. We have short pants, No, but on weekends you can wear your shorts.
Mhm.
But the shirt has to be tucked in all the time. I have mine out. So a CEO whistles to me and calls me over, and he goes, "You're breaking the rules." I go, "What rule?" He goes, "Your shirt's outside." I said, "Okay." He says, "Your shirt has to be tucked inside always. So you're on pickup duty." I go, "What's pickup duty?" He says, "Anything you see on the ground, pick it up until I tell you to stop." That SOB, you pick up stuff for an hour. Anyway, so that now the third story, getting back to what you were talking about, the difference between, the whites and the blacks and the Hispanics and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Cuban, but I consider myself a white kid. We're white,
like a white guy.
Because,
yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so I was friends with everybody, and everybody was friends with me.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, during the softball season, one of the Mexican guys starts fighting with one of the black guys over something. I was there, and I couldn't remember. I can't remember what it was about. But all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose, and everybody separates. The Mexican guy goes against these guys. The black guy goes against his guys, and I'm just sitting there like an idiot.
You're torn.
I don't know what to do. I'm looking and what's going on, and here they come. The groups, here they come. They're gonna, but here come the COs.
Yeah.
And the COs get in the way, and they go, "Guys, you don't want to do this. You're gonna, they're gonna be taken away from here." So that settles down, and everything's gonna go back to normal. So we're sitting in our cubicle that night, my bunkie and I, and we had this fat Mexican guy that used to be one of the ball players. They used to call him Big Boy. Mm-hmm. There was a guy, and his buddy used to be called Little Boy, because Little Boy is like this, Big Boy is like that, and for like 400 pounds. So Big Boy is coming, and he's talking to us. So, and we start talking about the fight, or the fight that could happen. So I said, "Big Boy, you know me. I'm Cuban. I can go on your side, or what?" He said, "You don't belong to anybody. you would be beat up by either side."
Oh shit!
I said, "Okay, that's good to know." So the hell with this. I'm not talking to anybody.
Yeah, just go stand in the corner when
yeah. Exit station right left, like yeah. So
when you got out of prison. Did you get back into the game?
I did. I was sort of welcome back and not welcome back. There were we had over 60 clients at the time that I had to go to prison. And a lot of the guys left because they thought that, my reputation, they couldn't stand with somebody, even though they had been with us for years. And I mean, to be honest with you, basically, what did I do? I didn't do what they say I did. But even if I had done what they say I did, you can say I was saving Cubans from a communist country.
Right.
Right? Anyway, so I found it hard to go back to the office setting with my partner. So we decided to part ways. And I got a new partner within, I think, 6 months. Partnership. Some people where Desiree used to work at, some lawyers, and they decided to partner up with me and go through this, or go, be agents again. So we started getting Cuban players. We got a couple guys. We got 3 guys signed with the Dodgers, and then I kept going. I just found it a little harder and harder as I went through.
We probably had more eyes on you then, because even if you weren't,
well,
even if you didn't do what they say you did, they're probably still watching you.
Oh no, that, and I think that a lot of the older scouts, the older GMs, general managers of the teams, the scouting directors of the teams, were getting also older, and they had left, they had retired. So I faced a lot of younger guys, and the younger guys really didn't know me. And I didn't want to spend the time getting to know them either.
Right.
then I understood that it maybe the youngest, especially the younger scouts in the Dominican, didn't like me because they thought I was always trying to make the Cubans look better than the Dominicans. I said, I'm trying to make every one of my players. We had a whole bunch of Dominican players. So I'm trying to make every one of my players look good because if they don't get paid, I don't get paid, Right. So even if we even had 2 Korean guys, both made the major leagues. And so I said, I'm getting too old to have to deal with this crap, and the players are different. The players, when you're young, the players expect you to go have dinner with them and I traveled too much and I got tired of it and too many headaches, too many. It seems like the players nowadays are more spoiled than they used to be.
Right.
And I think that's a reflection of culture nowadays, the entitlement kind of thing. And I said, nah. So I retired 2 years ago. I said, enough of this.
Seems like right now would be the time to get in the game, though, because the way the border is, they can just freely walk across the border.
Yeah. No, I know. And there's players signing for $80 million and $60 million. We had a friend of mine. They just signed a Cuban player for $32 million. So the money is better than ever.
Yeah. But
the hassle of it, and the Dominican. When I started going to the Dominican back in 1992 or 93, and we set up an agency there with an attorney that still happens to be there. We're still friends, and he still, actually deals with that kind of stuff. But it's just the people who are doing baseball stuff in the Dominican. I used to call them a mafia, but the mafia I think had more dignity than these guys did.
Right.
Because it was a mafia. It was like, it's la cosa nostra, and you deal with your people on your own. But these guys, they don't care about anybody.
They're more of a gang.
Yeah. That's what they are.
Yeah, just gangsters, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't like, I think we have a lot of that in this city too. Like there's a lot of people that are just like, they're ganged up. I was talking to, before you guys got here, the fire department came through and they were doing their little survey and stuff. And I was asking them if they wanted to come on the podcast one day and chat about, things they weren't happy with. And they were basically saying the same thing. They're like, we do want to come on the podcast and chat about things we're not happy with, but that would upset a lot of people.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's what I actually, I had an offer to do a podcast maybe about 7 years ago. They wanted me to talk about what they call the black side or bad side of baseball. The underworld in baseball, whatever. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? I know so much. But then I don't know if I want anybody to know that I know so much. Right. Because who knows? Who knows who's listening, and who knows that one day you see in the street, and I'd rather just live a happy life and just happy retirement. And we, thank goodness, we're okay. We live as you know in California, 45 years. No, we're married 45 years. I lived there 56 years. So this is quite a change for us, but at the same time, our kids are here and we like it here. I understand about the city of New Orleans getting a little, like you said, a little gangster up a little.
I think it's every city.
But where we live, Mandeville is pretty quiet.
Yeah.
That's sort of like country, I guess. But we're getting more and more used to it, and we're fine. I'm fine with the way my life is.
Without getting anyone in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, what are just some of the dark sides of baseball? Because I never thought about that. I mean, I guess they would throw someone's arm out, right, for a game.
Well, I'll tell you a story is public. It's not something that I only know. I happened to know before we became public because I know one of the scouts that participated in it. There was a Cuban player who came out. He was in the Dominican Republic. He was a pitcher. We all knew who he was. We all knew the talent he had. His talent wasn't worth probably 50,000, maybe at best. He was already 33, 34 on the heavy side, kind of done with his. So if any team, as an agent or as a scout, if any team is going to sign him, they're going to sign him just to give him a chance to see if he can come out of the bullpen and be a setup guy or something. All right, but that's about the level, the highest he can go. You don't expect a number one starter or anything from him like that. So it comes to me that this guy needs an agent. I pass. I don't, because just to represent a player, you gotta feed them and you gotta house them whether in the Dominican Republic. They have nobody else that can do it. So you got to put up money. And I don't say, I don't want to put up 15, 20,000 to get 5% back from a player who's going to make 50,000. That doesn't make sense. Anyway, all of a sudden we hear that he signed with the Braves for $1 million. $1 million. And I'm going, you have got to be kidding me. And I told my attorney, the guy in the Dominican, I told some of the other guys that worked, that I knew that were working in baseball, I go, this is crazy. There's something behind this. There really has got to be something behind this, because this is too strange. Anyway, about 3 months later, it hits the newspapers. The general manager for the Braves, I can't remember his name right now. The Major League Baseball did an investigation of why this guy got $1 million. It's kind of obvious that something happened, because this guy's not worth that. Not even close. So it's something obvious about something. So they do an investigation. They get the FBI involved. And what happened was that they went to the GM, the scouting director, and the scout, who I knew. And I had representing him when he came from Cuba as a player 20 years before. He was working for the Braves. They sat with the guy and they told him, look, you're worth 50,000 at most. We're going to give you 100,000, but we're actually going to sign you for $1 million. The other 900,000 is for us. And the guy said, fine, give me 100,000. I won't even play. I'll just go and throw a couple of balls for you guys, spring training, and go home.
It's a good deal, yeah.
Yeah, for him, it's a great deal.
A little money laundering action.
Yeah. So he came out. And
then they joined you in prison.
Well, no, they actually, no one went to prison. What they got what do you call it, from baseball? They got, the GM got, well, yeah, but thrown out, or
they just fired him from the league, maybe.
Yeah, he can never be in the anything that has to do with baseball.
Blacklisted, maybe.
More than that, he got I cannot remember the word. Anyway, they all got out. They all got kicked out of baseball. This is a GM, and he's putzing around for what, a cut of maybe he got 500,000. Yeah, of a guy who's probably making a $5-6 million. That's dumb. I mean, greed's a horrible drug, man. It is. Yeah, it is. That's probably one of the worst drugs there is. Well, that's why I say that there's issues with gangs in cities. It's a lot of this politics that are just getting kickbacks on things. Yeah. So it's money laundering at its highest. I think that's the issue we have right now with the wars in Ukraine and stuff. It's just money laundering. Well, I don't get into politics much. Yeah. But Ukraine used to be, before this whole thing started, I'm not, listen, I dislike Putin like I dislike Castro. I actually think he's worse than Castro. But anyway, the whole thing with Ukraine used to be the number one most corrupt government in the world. At one time, they were more corrupt than Haiti. And Haiti, it's anyway. So we're making deals with a corrupt government, which then you say of all the billions, because it's billions that we have given them, where has all that money gone? Has it really gone towards the war and the effort to get Russia out of there? Or has it gone in somebody's pockets?
Yeah.
You never know.
I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me, but we talk on a podcast.
Yeah. Who knows?
Well, Gus, do you have any final words for the people out there?
No. This has been great. Been great to sit with you and talk about all this. And well, I'm glad to be in Louisiana. We're gonna start doing some fishing hopefully soon. And I don't like hunting, but fishing I do. So maybe some fishing.
Fishing's a nice, peaceful activity. I think you should.
Yeah. I'm drinking some rum.
Drinking some rum. Yep. Well, thank you for coming in today, Gus.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. More than welcome.